I made one rule for myself after the last alpha messed me up. Never again. No pheromones. No dominance games. No messy emotions that leave you shaking for weeks. I was done being anyone's instinct. So, of course, fate decided to laugh in my face. The gala was one of those obnoxious charity events. Expensive suits, fake smiles, and too much perfume fighting for air. I was there for work, not fun. Take pictures, shake hands, pretend to care about corporate donations. Easy, until he walked in. Josh Hale, the city's golden alpha. Rich, powerful, gorgeous in that should come with a warning label kind of way. He didn't walk in. He arrived. Calm, composed, like the room already belonged to him and maybe the air did too. The noise around him dimmed just enough to make everyone notice. And, unfortunately, so did I. The scent hit first. Not overpowering, just clean, subtle. Like expensive whiskey and something sharp underneath it. It shouldn't have hit that deep. My stomach dropped anyway. I tried to look away. I really did. But then his gaze found mine. It wasn't a glance. It was a lock. A deliberate, slow, assessing kind of stare that made it impossible to breathe properly. I forced a sip of champagne just to look busy. My hand trembled. Smooth, Sam. Real smooth. He moved through the crowd like he had a map of it in his head. People stopped him, talked, smiled too wide, and he kept coming closer. Every step felt like he was closing a distance I hadn't realized mattered. By the time he reached me, my pulse was somewhere near my ears. Sam, right? His voice was lower than I expected. Not loud, not pushy, just enough to vibrate. There was this calm authority under it, the kind that didn't need to prove itself. Yeah. My voice cracked. Great start. He smiled barely. The kind of smile that doesn't show teeth, just intention. I've heard about you. Depends who you've been talking to, I managed, setting down my glass before it shattered. Josh's gaze flicked down, slow, taking in everything. The tie, the sleeves, the nervous fidgeting. I should have been annoyed, but the look in his eyes wasn't predatory. It was curious, calculated. Then he leaned in, just a little. Close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating off him through my jacket. I need someone I can trust during my rut, he said, soft and calm, like it was a business proposition. I choose you. I froze. He said it so simply. No persuasion, no flirting. Just, I chose you like he was reading a fact from a file. For a few seconds, my brain just glitched. Was this some kind of joke? An alpha like him, one of those alphas, choosing me. I think you've got the wrong guy, I said, trying to laugh it off. His eyes didn't waver. No, I don't. The room felt smaller suddenly, the background noise fading to a hum. His scent pressed at the edge of my control. Subtle, expensive, unfairly addictive. Every warning bell in my head was blaring, "Don't do this, Sam." But my body wasn't listening. I swallowed hard. That's, not really my thing anymore. Josh tilted his head slightly, studying me like I was a puzzle he'd already decided to solve. It doesn't have to mean anything. Just someone I can trust. No pressure. No pressure. Right. Except his voice was all pressure, low and sure, wrapping around the edges of my resolve like it belonged there. I should have walked away, should have said no, should have remembered the last time I let an alpha this close. But then he leaned in again, barely a breath away, and said quietly, "You can say no if you want. But I think we both know you won't." And before I could think, before logic could reboot, I heard myself whisper, "Okay." The smallest smile tugged at his mouth. "Good," he said, voice like velvet over steel. "We'll talk soon." Then he stepped back, leaving nothing but his scent, and the kind of silence that makes you realize your heart beats way too loud. I stared at the empty space he left, every part of me buzzing, and realized one horrifying truth. I'd just broken my only rule. Later that night, it was supposed to be simple. Clear boundaries, controlled conditions, nothing personal. That's what I kept repeating when Josh opened the door. His apartment looked like him. Ordered, cold, too perfect. Chrome, glass, expensive silence. Everything screamed professional. Everything except the way he was watching me. He kept a careful distance at first, moving with deliberate calm, like he was trying not to startle me. "This isn't about control," he said quietly. "If at any point you want to stop, say so." The words were rehearsed, almost clinical, but his voice cracked just a little at the edges. I nodded, pretending I couldn't feel my pulse everywhere at once. He reached out, slowly. Not to grab, not to claim, just to touch. His fingertips brushed my wrist, light as static. Something in my chest stuttered. For someone built like power incarnate, he touched like he was afraid to hurt something fragile. Every motion was careful, measured, human. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a man losing control to instinct. This was someone fighting it. Our eyes met, and for the first time I saw what everyone else missed beneath the calm. Not dominance, not arrogance, just strain. Like every breath was a battle between what he wanted and what he refused to take without permission. And that, God help me, was worse than anything I'd expected. Because in that careful distance, in that restraint, I could feel everything he wasn't saying. And I knew I was already in trouble. 3 days later, it starts 3 days after the rut. 3 days of pretending I'm fine. Pretending nothing happened. Pretending the world hasn't tilted slightly on its axis. Work helps. Numbers. Emails. A boss who talks too fast and cares too little. I cling to normal like it's a life raft. It's late when I leave the office. The city's washed in rain, streetlights making everything gleam like glass. My reflection wavers in puddles as I walk, half distracted, half somewhere else entirely. That's when I see him. Josh. Leaning against his car across the street, jacket open, hair damp, expression unreadable. For a moment, my brain refuses to accept it, that he's really there. Then the air shifts. I feel that familiar pull, subtle but heavy, the gravity of him even from a distance. I stop a few feet away, the sound of traffic filling the silence between us. "You shouldn't be here," I say, keeping my voice low, even. He doesn't argue, doesn't smile either, just looks at me, steady, like he's waiting for permission to speak. "Just making sure you got home safe." I let out a breath, half laughter, half exasperation. "You've got a driver." "Security." "Probably a satellite feed that can do that for you." "I wanted to see you myself." The words are quiet, too honest. The rain drips from his sleeve, catching the light. He looks tired, not physically, but tired, like someone carrying too much he can't name. "I'm fine, Josh," I say. "You don't have to keep checking in." "I know." But he doesn't move. His voice softens, almost apologetic. "It's a habit, I guess." I should leave. Should make it clear this is over, that our deal ended days ago. But there's something fragile about him in that moment. Something I've never seen before. The silence stretches. All the things we're not saying hover between us like fog. Finally, I step back. "Go home, Josh." He nods once, eyes flicking away. "Good night, Sam." I turn and start walking. But after a few steps, curiosity gets the better of me. When I glance back, he's still there, motionless in the rain, watching until I disappear around the corner. And for reasons I can't explain, my chest aches all the way home. A week passes. I tell myself that was it. A weird post-arrangement gesture, nothing more. But then it happens again. And again. At first, it's subtle. A car idles near the cafe where I stop before work. A familiar silhouette at a gala. His name appears in conversations he has no reason to be part of. He's everywhere and nowhere at once. Never intrusive, never crossing a line, but always there. The worst part? I start looking for him. One evening, I'm walking out of a restaurant with my coworkers. We're laughing about a client disaster, and I spot the black car across the street. Tinted windows. Engine running. I tell myself it's a coincidence, until I catch the briefest glimpse. A familiar profile behind the glass, gaze fixed straight ahead. That night, my phone buzzes. No greeting, no explanation. Just didn't realize you had plans tonight. I stare at the screen for a long time. Anger flares first. How dare he? But under it, there's something else. Something quieter. Because if he didn't care, he wouldn't be watching. And if I didn't care, my pulse wouldn't be racing right now. The next time we run into each other, it's at another corporate event. The air is thick with perfume and polite lies. He's across the room talking to someone important, but his eyes keep finding mine. I try to ignore it. I laugh too loudly at a joke I barely hear, and I feel the weight of his gaze tighten, deliberate and unrelenting. When I finally step away to get some air, he's there at the edge of the terrace, hands in his pockets, posture calm, too calm. Following me again, I say lightly. He doesn't flinch. Coincidence. Right. A beat of silence. Then quietly he asks, "Who was he?" It takes me a second to realize what he means. My coworker? The one who walked me out? Josh's jaw shifts slightly. Not anger, restraint. "I saw you." Laughing, so what? His eyes flick toward me, and for the first time I see something raw in them. Not dominance, not control, just confusion, like he doesn't understand how to not care. I don't like feeling jealous. He admits finally. It's new. That disarms me completely. He's not accusing. He's confessing. I exhale slowly. "You're not supposed to feel anything. Remember?" He nods, gaze dropping to the ground. I remember. But when he looks up again, there's a softness there that wasn't before. I can't seem to stop. And just like that, every line I tried to draw between us blurs into something painfully human. The next time I see him is at a charity gala. One of those endless glittering events that all blur together after a while. I almost don't go. I almost texted my boss and faked a fever, but habit wins. So does curiosity. The ballroom hums with low conversation, laughter that doesn't reach anyone's eyes. Strings of gold light spill across crystal tables. Everything feels too bright, too loud. And then I see him, Josh, standing near the bar, surrounded by the kind of people who only talk in investments and influence. He's listening, polite, attentive. But his attention isn't there. It's on me. Our eyes meet across the room, and for one heartbeat, the noise fades. It's the same pull as before, the same magnetic wrongness that makes me forget the promises I made to myself. I try to break the gaze first, so I do the stupid thing. I turn to the nearest person, a stranger, a guest I don't even catch his name, and ask him to dance. It's harmless. Just movement, laughter, something to fill the space. But every step feels like a test. And when I spin toward the edge of the floor, I catch sight of Josh again. His face hasn't changed, still calm, still unreadable. But something sharp flickers behind his eyes, the kind of emotion that can't quite be disguised. When the music ends, I thank my partner and escape outside for air. The night is cool, the sky heavy with the scent of rain. I lean against the balcony railing, finally breathing again. I hear him before I see him. The soft sound of shoes against marble. He stops a few feet away, his voice low, steady. Too steady. Do you like making me jealous? The question lands somewhere between accusation and confession. I turn, meeting his gaze. You're not supposed to feel anything, remember? He huffs a quiet laugh. More breath than sound. I remember saying that. Doesn't mean I'm succeeding. He steps closer, close enough that I can see the exhaustion under his composure. I'm not angry, he says softly. I just don't know how to stop thinking about you when I shouldn't. For a second, the world holds still. The city lights, the air, the space between us. I don't know what to say, so I don't. And he doesn't wait for an answer. He just exhales. A sound that's half defeat, half relief, and walks back inside. After that night, I do what I do best. I run. Not literally. Just enough to build distance. Fewer texts. Fewer calls. Leaving early from events. It's easier that way. Or at least that's what I tell myself. But then the quiet starts to feel wrong too. His absence hangs in the air like static. Every time my phone buzzes, I expect his name. When it doesn't appear, the silence feels heavier than it should. Then one night, I come home late and find an envelope under my door. My name was written in his clean, deliberate handwriting. Inside, there's a folded note. Short, simple. You don't owe me anything. I just can't unlearn caring about you. Jay, no demands, no apologies. Just honesty. And it hurts more than if he'd begged me to come back. I sit there on the floor for a long time, staring at the paper. Some part of me wants to throw it away. Another part keeps reading it until the ink starts to blur. Because the truth is, I miss him too. And that's the part I can't admit to anyone, least of all myself. Weeks pass. I convince myself it's over, that I've done the right thing. Until one night, there's a knock on my door. It's late, the kind of late that feels like the world's asleep except for the two of you. Rain falls in steady sheets against the windows. And when I open the door, he's standing there. Josh, drenched, breathless, eyes wide with something that isn't composure anymore. I tried, he says, voice hoarse. I really tried to stay away. I should say something, but words don't come. He looks nothing like the alpha who commands every room. He looks like a man who's come apart at the seams trying not to love someone. It's not instinct anymore, he continues, quiet but certain. It's you. Every rational thought in my head goes silent. The only thing I hear is the rain. The only thing I feel is the truth of it. The way it lands, soft and terrifying. I don't move toward him, but I don't step back either. We just stand there. Two people who made a deal to feel nothing, now drowning in everything. And in that quiet, I know what comes next isn't about rules or arrangements. It's about everything we were too afraid to name. A little while later, I thought I had this under control. I thought taking space, drawing boundaries, pretending I could be rational, would save us both. But sitting across from Josh at that quiet cafe, I realized just how wrong I am. The cafe is small, dimly lit, the kind with half-burnt candles and the faint smell of coffee beans and warm pastry. Outside, the city hums, indifferent. Inside, it feels like the world has shrunk to just the two of us. Josh's hands wrap around his coffee cup, fingers tight enough to leave small dents. His posture is impeccable, calm, collected, perfect. Except for the subtle cracks, the way his jaw tightens when I speak, the way his eyes flick to mine and linger too long. Those are the cracks only I notice. I don't want to confuse you, he says, low, almost clipped. I laugh softly, but it's bitter. Confuse me? Josh, you've been everywhere these past weeks. Showing up, watching me, checking in. I can't pretend that's not confusing. He flinches ever so slightly. Not from anger, from honesty, vulnerability. I'm trying to keep things clear, he says. His voice is measured, but I hear the tremor underneath. Clear, I whisper. Josh, you called me to check if I got home safe. You texted about who I was laughing with at a gala? That's not clear. That's you not letting go. His eyes drop to the table. He runs a hand over the rim of his cup, exhaling slowly. I can't. I don't want to let you go, Sam. And just like that, every carefully constructed boundary I set up between us collapses. He doesn't want control. He doesn't want possession. He just wants me near. And I realize, I want the same thing. We sit in silence after that, coffee cooling, fingers drumming on the table. Both of us too stubborn, too scared to admit just how much. Finally, I speak, voice barely audible. Maybe we should take a break. No contact, no messages, space. He nods once, slow, lips pressed thin. His voice cracks when he says, if that's what you need. I hate how my chest hurts, how my lungs want to keep him here even as I push him away. A few weeks later, I tell myself distance will fix this. I tell myself I'll feel relief. That space will heal the jagged ache I can't name. But when the next rut hits, relief never comes. Instead, emptiness coils in my chest. A quiet, gnawing hollow that nothing distracts. And then, a knock at my door. I open it, and the night explodes with rain, drenching everything it touches. The city smells wet, heavy, metallic. And there he is. Drenched, hair plastered to his forehead, suit clinging to him, eyes blown wide with something I can't place at first. Vulnerability, need, exhaustion. I tried, he says, voice hoarse, breaking against the thunder. I tried to stay away, Sam, but I can't. Lightning flashes, and for a heartbeat, he looks almost fragile. The man who once commanded every room now looks like he's barely holding himself together. My mind tells me to shut the door, to protect what little peace I've built. But my body stays still. My hands shake on the frame. My chest aches. And before I can stop myself, I whisper, "You shouldn't be here." "I know," he says quietly, "but I needed to see you." The rain keeps falling between us, steady, relentless. And maybe it's the storm, or the way his voice trembles when he speaks my name. But suddenly, all the walls I've built start to crack. "Do you even know what this does to me?" I blurt out. Every time I start to trust you, I remember how it ended last time. How he walked away without a word. How I waited, and nothing came back. Josh's eyes soften, the blue in them dimming with sorrow. "The one before me," he says gently. I nod, the words catching in my throat. He said I was too much. That loving me felt like drowning. And when he left, I started to believe it. That I was too much to love. The confession sits heavy in the air, raw and unguarded. For a long moment, Josh says nothing. Then he steps forward. Slow, careful, as if afraid to break the space holding us both up. He stops only when we're close enough for me to feel his breath. "I can't promise perfection," he murmurs. "But I swear this to you, Sam. On my name. On the life I build. On every promise I've ever meant. I will never leave you in silence. Not in anger. Not in fear. Not ever." He reaches out, his hand trembling as it brushes the side of my face. "You won't have to chase me into the dark again." Outside, thunder rumbles. Inside, it's quiet. My chest tightens with something that feels dangerously close to hope. "You shouldn't make vows like that," I whisper. "People break them." He shakes his head, rain still dripping from his hair. "Then I'll spend the rest of my life proving I won't." And I believe him, Not because the words are grand, but because his voice shakes when he says them. For a moment, there's only the rain, the warmth between us, and a truth that feels too big for words. I step closer, my forehead against his chest. His heartbeat thunders steadily beneath my ear. Maybe this isn't about rules or control. Maybe it's about finding someone who stays. And suddenly everything I've been clinging to, rules, fear, space, falls away. My heart races uncontrollably. My chest aches. My hands shake. I don't push him away. I reach up, touch his arm lightly, hesitant, questioning, but desperate. His hand cups my cheek gently, thumb brushing my jaw, slow, reverent. Not claiming, not marking, just adoring. Every movement, every breath, every look says the things we couldn't say for months. When he kisses me, it's tentative at first, careful. But there's no mistaking it. Everything unsaid, everything denied, pours into that moment, and I finally stop running. I let myself fall into the truth we've been avoiding. He doesn't own me, and I don't need to be owned. All I need is this: him, me, here, now. The storm outside fades into the background. It's just us, and that makes everything terrifyingly perfect. A few months later. Months later, we're a disaster. Not the tragic kind, the domestic, ridiculous, happy kind. Our mornings start slow now. Coffee that's always too strong. Sunlight that never reaches the far corner of the apartment. And Josh humming tunelessly while reading the news on his tablet. The hum drives me insane, and I secretly love it. The kitchen looks like the aftermath of a food fight most days. There's flour on the counter, 2 mugs that never match, and a sticky note on the fridge that says, "Buy milk," and "Stop using my razor." I wrote it after he stole mine again. This morning, the smell of burnt toast fills the air. My fault, as usual. I'm standing there with a fork, trying to pry a charred piece of bread from the toaster, muttering curses under my breath. Josh leans against the doorway, hair still damp from his shower, sleeves rolled to his elbows. "You know," he says, voice low and amused, "we have an actual fire extinguisher for a reason." "I'm experimenting," I mumble, stabbing the toast like it's betrayed me. He walks over, slow, deliberate, like he always does when he's fighting a smile. His arms slide around my waist, chin resting on my shoulder. His scent, warm, familiar, still dizzying, fills my head. "You're going to set off the alarm again," he murmurs, lips brushing the edge of my jaw. "Then you'll get to save the day," I say, half smirking. "You love that part." He chuckles, the sound deep and soft. "I love you being reckless, so I have an excuse to hold you," he murmurs, voice dipping lower. I roll my eyes, but my pulse betrays me. It's strange how easy it's become. The same man who once terrified me with his control now stands behind me in his socks, making fun of my cooking and kissing me between jokes. We've found a rhythm, messy, human, ours. He still gets jealous sometimes. Like when the guy at the market gives me an extra bunch of parsley on the house. Josh's jaw clenches, voice dropping as he mutters, "He looked at you too long." I tease him for it every time. What? Am I not allowed to smile at anyone anymore? He always leans in close then, eyes narrowing just a little, voice quiet enough that only I can hear. "Keep doing that," he whispers, lips grazing my ear. "And I'll remind you who you belong to." It should sound possessive. Once, maybe it would have scared me. But now it doesn't sound like ownership. It sounds like a promise. Like safety. Like home. And every time he says it, my heart skips the same way it did the first night he ever said my name, like it meant something. We're still figuring it out. Still stumbling. Still learning how to love without losing ourselves. But if this is what it looks like to break my one unbreakable rule, then maybe it was worth breaking. Honestly, I never want to forget. The end. If someone made you feel safe enough to break your own rules, would you? Thanks for watching. Subscribe to become part of our Rainbow Force, and consider joining our membership for early access and exclusive content. Stay wholesome.